Wouldn't it be wonderful if our children could learn directly from Catholic professionals in a variety of careers to help them discern their own paths forward? Today, it is my joy to welcome Walter Crawford and Tammy Parker to talk about an exciting new program for Teen Career Discernment, Good Counsel Careers.
Welcome to Homeschooling Saints, the podcast that helps you create the homeschool you love for the people you love. Our host is Lisa Mladinich, a Catholic life coach, TV host, best-selling author, and an instructor at Homeschool Connections.
Before we get started, remember to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the bell to join our channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Mladinich, your host, and today I'm thrilled to welcome Walter Crawford and Tammy Parker to unveil a very exciting new program for Teen Career Discernment, Good Counsel Careers. Walter Crawford is the co-founder of Good Counsel Careers, Homeschool Connections, and the Catholic Homeschool Conference. He lives with his wife and 6 children in Keller, Texas. They have been homeschooling for 15 years. Tammy Parker is the founder of Professional Mentor Associates, the executive director of Good Counsel Careers, an instructor for Homeschool Connections, and a former homeschooler and mother of 6 young adults. She's been sharing her expertise for over 30 years to help others succeed and ignite their own passion for becoming lifelong learners. I've got links in the show notes to Good Counsel Careers, Homeschool Connections, the Catholic Homeschool Conference, and Tammy's website. Walter, you and Maureen Whitman, welcome, by the way, both of you, to the show. It's so nice to see you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. And Walter, you and Maureen, I was just going to say, you're both homeschooling parents, and you grew Homeschool Connections from a single free government course for parents in 2008 to a thriving Catholic company that now provides really a vast array of award-winning programs for homeschool students, serving about 3,000 families around the world. And now you've created a whole new way to serve the Catholic homeschooling community. I got to ask, don't you have enough to do?
Well, I've been able to morph time away from what everyone else experiences. So I get about 27 hours a day.
Excellent.
So I don't know if you knew that or not, but here in my little bubble, that's what I'm able to account for. So
I think that's because you're... I'm sorry, Tammy, what were you going to say?
All perception. It's all good.
I was just going to say anything's possible in Texas.
Right.
It's the free state of Texas.
Everyone says things are bigger in Texas. Well, days are longer in Texas. So
Awesome. Oh, boy.
seldom alone.
You thought you were inundated with migrants. I don't mean over the border migrants. I mean Northeasterners from New York coming down.
They're all coming over. They're all coming down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, fantastic. So, Walter, just step us into what inspired you to create Good Counsel Careers.
Sure. And thanks for the question. Thanks for the time. Glad to be here. One of the things that Maureen and I, over the time that we've been doing Homeschool Connections, which is now 15 years, which is hard to imagine, actually. In the course of that, we've had plenty of time to talk with a number of parents, students, see conversations happening in email and in our community, our parent community, with students in our student cafe. There's been ample evidence presented in those conversations and those statements and comments that there seems to be something lacking in general with homeschoolers, among homeschoolers, when it comes to what lies beyond homeschooling them. So when that graduation mortarboard is taken off and you're now faced with, okay, now what? That question, we're trying to answer it. So we've had a lot of questions come up from parents. What resources do we have available? And inevitably, we would point them to some other external resources that are generic and not really targeting the needs to help kids with kind of from the Catholic point of view and giving them the appropriate direction. So that's kind of where it all started. I mean, we recognized that as an opportunity, and we wanted to make sure that we filled that gap that was seemingly being left behind. I mean, it's worth pointing out that, obviously homeschooling has grown dramatically in the last couple of years for a lot of reasons. And to that end, kids need to have those additional services that they once were afforded in their traditional school setting. And so, in addition to the current homeschool population. So it just made sense to look to see what might be out there and how we could fill the gap that seems to be left behind. And that's where Good Counsel Careers kind of sprung about.
Yeah, you just seem to have a knack for filling gaps. Did you want to tag team on anything there, Tammy, as far as how it came to be?
I've known Maureen and met Walter through Maureen. I'm an instructor, as we said, for Homeschool Connections. And one of the courses Maureen asked me to do is the Career Exploration Career Quest course, which kind of gives them a path, and they get credit for it and all that. But the reason Maureen, I think, tapped me for that was because her youngest was involved with some things I had done here in Michigan. And we had done some career things, invited people in. And I've heard from many kids through mentoring and teaching and whatever, they kind of deer in the headlights sometimes. And the parents are like, how do I help them answer this question? What's next? And the idea behind Good Counsel Careers that I got excited about was it kind of takes the course that through Homeschool Connection and the ideas that were there, and it just gives it more bones, and on the bones it gives flesh and just something they can really dive into, and more resources in a way that can really give those kids that path. And what I was excited about it is because when you can help someone, at least have more confident moving forward, and to at least have the answer, like what's next, is in the sense of I'm looking into it, I'm praying about it, and I have a way to do it. To me, that's exciting. And that's, what led me into all of this with Walter, Maureen, and Jason.
Oh, boy. It really is a huge need. We do get that deer in the headlights thing. I mean, we're praying for our kids. We understand sometimes their gifts and talents to a degree, but really evaluating what it is to step into a type of a career, we really do need a little bit of a helping hand, a little bit of experiential know-how. So would you mind, Tammy, just explaining how does GCC work?
Well, it's an online platform. And so parents get, or whoever gets, a subscription for a student or a kid. And they generally it's juniors or seniors in high school, maybe just out of high school. Second semester sophomores also, it's kind of a good thing because they're rounding their corner to all the things that they're going to think about. But what it is we have several elements, and one, like the backbone of it, is the path of career explorations. And so there's 15 units, and it's released week by week, so that it encourages them to take their time. And it talks about a subject at a time and gives them 8 different elements. And there's some bonus elements every once in a while in a unit. But the basic idea is it gives them a video with an explanation of what that unit's all about. It gives them a self-assessment. So there's 15 different self-assessments. And then what do you do with the self-assessment? Because you can take a self-assessment and go, well, I don't know what to do with that. So it gives them this investigation of, okay, now that you've done this self-assessment, what are you going to do with it? How do you figure out what that means for you and your future? And then how do you build this information over time to start? Is there patterns forming? What is it looking like? Encourages them to reach out to their community. There's a community in Good Counsel Careers, so they can reach out there, and students have been doing that, asking questions of each other and people, even the mentors that are on there. And then also encourage them to reach out to family in their community. So it's a path. So that's that backbone of how it works. So we send them there first, and the get started spot is go there. It works in tandem with those self-assessments that I spoke of, but also with our career role models. So we have these wonderful interviews with people from just solid Catholic backgrounds that are sharing their lives and how they got there and what their career looks like, what a normal week looks like, and how does it work with family and all of those things. And it's kind of fun for them to see an interview of a real person that's actually in a career doing that. And many of these career role models also have links to the different things about the career, and we're building upon that as well. And some of them, we're building this into this, will have opportunities where a student can say, I'd like to meet with that person. And that's kind of like an add-on, but it's what a wonderful opportunity. We also have information about the what's next question in the sense of different colleges, universities, trade schools, religious orders, gap year stuff, and all of that. So it's a hub of information in addition to that path. So it's a really place to, kind of have all this information. And we also are building our supplementals, which is like how do you write an essay for a college scholarship or college entrance exam? Those tools are part of it as well, and we're building on to that. But our backbone is that path to help them prayerfully think through what's next and informing them, and them informing themselves through those self-assessments.
Wow, that's so good. What else about the workings of it, Walter, are important to you, your favorite parts?
Yeah, I mean, Tammy hit on the couple of things that I love about it. And the one, apart from her wonderful course that she's comprised, is that the interviews with these career role models. It's such a unique opportunity to, what all-in-one kind of a repository of jobs, vocations, you name it, from the trades to career professionals to people who are trades professional, military, former military. There's academics, academia. There's all facets of it that it provides such an intriguing insight into those respective professions, careers, vocations, however you want to put it. And I love that about it. It's been wonderful to reach out to these folks. They've been so willing to give up their time to help be a beacon of light for some of these kids as they're trying to figure out what to do next. Also, and by the way, I should point out that along that path, or along that, in those interviews, these same individuals discuss their faith in various aspects of the interview, right? So it's not just about what's next, it's about how that fits into the plan. How did their path fit into God's plan for God's will for them, right? So it's a unique proposition, a unique opportunity for the kids to learn about that their faith can be incorporated into the things that we're talking about here. In fact, it's central to it. But also, I think the other thing that Tammy already pointed out that I really like is the mentoring aspect. Again, that's an optional feature of it, but it's a growing base of these career role models. Not all of them offer it for a variety of reasons, but some of them do. And so it's a chance for these young individuals, these young adults, to reach out to these same individuals and say, look, I'm interested in that. Can you tell me more about it? What does it mean to be like that? I'd like to dig a little deeper with you. And that is such a unique, again, opportunity for these kids to be able to tap someone on the shoulder that has piqued their interest about whatever that happens to be, their profession, their religious vocation, what have you, and corner them in a sense and say, hey, tell me more. Give me what path what might you recommend for me? Or maybe what did you do that might help me get to where you're at? That sort of thing. So those two are kind of my favorite aspects of it. And it will continue to grow, as Tammy pointed out. We're just while we have a lot of resources already available, we're going to continue to grow it out. And it's and we can talk about that later on if you like, but it's really those are my two favorites.
Yeah, I definitely want to go there. Tammy, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to chime in because I kind of explained how it works, but some of my favorites is, I love the path, but the community that's there, that it will be growing as more and more students come on, and the fact that they can ask each other questions, and then the mentors or we ourselves can come on and answer some of their questions. I had a question today about, is trade school really viable? And I'm like, yes, trade school is viable, and there's apprenticeships out there, and we can share information. And I think that's important, to be able to feel like you're not alone, that you're not the only one looking at, like, I don't really know what's next, but I'm looking at it. That sense of community, I think, is really important. Plus, we haven't mentioned yet our allied service providers. And as a parent, if I was looking at a situation, I'm like, okay, I know my kid, they need to take the SAT or whatever. And so I don't know who's good to use to help my kid prepare. Right. And so we have these allied service providers. Michael Tui did a webinar, recently for us. And so there's several, there's life coaching, and there is, I do accountability mentoring, and there's, different things that are offered. So a parent can say, okay, I know at least this is a good place to go for that. So as a parent, that would give me confidence. Not only does my student have this path, but then I have this source. Like, if I want them to have these things, I know of a good source for it. So I like our allied service providers because I know they've been vetted and they're solid in what they do.
A funny anecdote to that, and I've got to interject because it was something that during that webinar with Michael Toohey, by the way, we had over 400 kids and parents register for that. So it was well received. And for a fledgling organization, that was really neat to see. But, normally when we do a webinar, we'll get about 20% of the folks that show up, what have you. Well, Michael and I were conversing about it prior to the session. He's like, oh, yeah, SAT is a hot topic. I expect a lot of people. I'm like, well, I don't expect that many, but all right. Anyway, fast forward, here we are a few minutes right before the session's about to start. And, within Zoom, you can see the number of students that are trying to come in. And at that time, about 5 minutes before, we had about 60, 65. I'm like, this is great. We got such a great turnout. This is blowing the doors off of anything I expected. Well, the same time I'm thinking of blowing the doors off, we have a huge storm blowing in. So much so that the 80-mile-an-hour winds are outside, the lights are flickering, my internet's dropping, we're having all sorts of, it's just chaos, right? It's chaos. So I get dropped, I have to come back in. I'm only able to get back in 20 minutes later. Well, fortunately, Mr. Toohey, as savvy as he is, was able to record it. But and I wasn't able to get in because not only for my internet dropping, but because we had over 100 kids trying to get into the session. And our current license at the time, I'm going to have to make an adjustment now because of that, had only allowed for 100 seats, 100 students to join at any given time. So I'm locked out of my own session until it's a very humorous but stressful at a moment in time. But, it just shows you that there is a demand for the content out there. And and Tammy hit on something that's very, I think, a key ingredient to all this is that we're trying to get really wonderful people, these allied service providers that are so skilled and gifted in these spaces in front of these students. So if they want to do a deeper dive that maybe even good Counsel Careers can't necessarily initially provide, they can. These people are designed, they've been fully vetted by us. They're wonderfully Catholic. They're faithful to the magisterium. They're excited. They're passionate about what they're doing. And that kind of thing is infectious for the kids. And so even though that particular instance was stressful, I mean, he was just amazing. I mean, Mr. Toohey was all over it. And these kids left wanting more. They definitely left wanting more. There's no doubt about it. So
yeah, I was able to get in and at one point, and the responsiveness. That's what's exciting is that they were responsive and they were asking good questions, even the ones not actually talking, but in the message thread, the chat thread. And that's what we want is to them to be excited about their future and be very involved in what they're doing in that process of moving themselves forward.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Thank you both so much. I love the enthusiasm. And that really is emblematic of everything that this partnership has done from the beginning with Homeschool Connections, with the Catholic Homeschool Conferences, and now with Good Counsel Careers. That sense of really connecting with, and you guys have a genius for this, Walter and Maureen, who's not with us at the moment, for finding those people who love the church. Finding those people who love what they do. I mean, I've had parents tell me over the years, because I've had the joy of teaching with Homeschool Connections as well, that they couldn't believe it when they discovered Homeschool Connections, that they could have people, really pretty big name people and really accomplished people personally teaching their children in live courses. And so that ethos of the real deal just keeps emerging in everything that you guys are creating. And so just want to applaud that and call that out, because obviously a lot of prayer and discernment went into creating this. It's just being created at such a high level. I'll let you say your comment, and then we're going to take a sponsor break real quick.
Yeah, sure. I would say that I take no credit for it. And I know Maureen wouldn't either. Since the beginning, since the inception of not only Homeschool Connections, but I think even secondarily with Good Counsel Careers, we would say that the CEO of our organization is the Holy Spirit. So, and that particular, I don't think that's any different here. So, we leave it in his hands, and it's played out so nicely, and it shows you there's such an appetite for it, right? There's such an appetite for this particular way of doing things that, we try to make it a win-win-win situation for everybody involved, and it seems to be that's the case. So.
been so successful. And when we come back from the break, I would like to hear from both of you. We'll start with Tammy about like this incredible program and the impact that you're hoping to have, short-term, long-term, and so forth. Everybody, stick around. We're going to take a really quick sponsor break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Walter Crawford.
And I'm Maureen Whitman.
We are the co-founders of homeschoolconnections.com and proud sponsors of the Homeschooling Saints podcast,
which is here to help you homeschool more joyfully, more easily, and more effectively.
We want to thank you for listening.
And we invite you to check out our courses at homeschoolconnections.com.
And now, back to our program.
All right, we are back with Walter Crawford and Tammy Parker talking about an exciting new program for Teen Career Discernment, Good Counsel Careers. And I want to bring this back to Tammy first. What are we looking at in terms of the impact you're hoping for?
Well, the short-term impact from my heart is for the students that do have that question thrown at them, especially in the junior and senior years, like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? You know, and some of them are just like, leave me alone, is for them to have an answer. I'm looking into it. I'm part of Good Counsel Careers and I'm looking into it. And then they have a point of conversation. It's not like, I don't know, which then makes them feel uncomfortable because they might not know. And it's okay not to know. It's okay if you're prayerfully moving it forward, and this gives them a spot, and then they get an answer, right? And then that can spark conversations, and who knows where God's going to use that conversation with someone who asks them that, and they're like, "Oh, Good Counsel Careers, you know, what are you learning with that?" And then long term, giving these students the confidence of that they've really gone through and looked at things and not wasted like time or money, in a sense of going down and taking college classes or whatever. I switched my major 3 times in college, and that's okay too. People do that. But if you really prayerfully looked at it, hopefully that saves some time and money. That helps the parents too, I would assume. And then for the parents themselves, is giving them like confidence that they are providing something by getting this subscription to Good Counsel Careers and having their students go there, that they have confidence that they are helping them move forward in a real positive direction, a prayerful direction to what's next. So that's the impact. So we really want to be that source of information to help people along.
Yeah, your thoughts on that, Walter? Impact.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think that some of the things that, I would love to see, long term, I think Tammy hit it out of the park with the short term. I would only add that it would be great to see some of the same students that go through this process, they come back and be our own, the career role models. That'd be kind of neat. And I think of that as a kind of a long-term goal, right? I'd like to be able to, at some point, to have some sort of apprenticeship arrangements, right? With some of these individuals, like, so with the day of internet now, the way it is, and with our ability to have conversations like this in real time with no one talking over one another, and the quality is so high, there are arrangements that can be made through apprenticeships, as an example, where some individuals that are current career role models might be looking for good students that they might be mentoring and inviting them to the table to help them do whatever business might be necessary to make that overall organization be successful. So if I would those are some of the things, and I'm getting ahead of ourselves because I know we want to talk about things that are going to happen in the future, but that would be one thing I would like to see unfold. And I think that would be a kind of a long-term impact to see these kids get placed into jobs with some of these mentorships apprenticeships, or even under these mentors, if they see something that might be very valuable to their respective organizations.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you a little bit later about additional programs or features you might see in the future, but since you took us there, I just love this visionary sense, and it makes me really happy. You know what I was thinking as you were talking, Walter? You are such a dad. And I mean that in the most beautiful way possible. Like, what would be the most wonderful thing that could happen would be some of these students now come back and then be pouring into others because they've found that beautiful calling. Isn't that the father's gift, is to be that bridge from their children to the world? That's really a special charism of dads, I think. And so want to acknowledge that to any dads listening too. Why don't we stay with that topic of additional programs or anything in the future that you see? Tammy, did you have have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, some additional things that I could see that we're building on is that those supplementals, those like kind of mini courses you're not graded for. It's literally because you want to know how to write a better essay to get a scholarship or to get an entrance into something, or you want to know what's a resume and how do I make one, or, or 7 habits of a highly effective teens. That's one of them in the works of, what does that mean? How highly effective, and so these supplemental mini kind of resources to build that out is something that is coming into our program and will continue to be adding. And of course, our career role models. And we have like over 40 right now, and we're building more every week. And across the spectrum of careers, religious, executive, trades, all sorts of things. So if people know someone, that's in a career, that you think would be a good career role model, let us know. We want to have a button actually for people to recommend people, because we want to have good people to be good career role models, and to continue building that information. And also the database element of that, what's next with the colleges, university, trade schools, religious things. We want to build on that database so it's well informed for our students. So those are things we're building, and we'll continue to build into the future.
Neat.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it's very exciting because there seems, like I said earlier, and we'll say it again, there's a want here. There's a need that's been, whether implicit or explicitly expressed, there is a desire for students to want to be able to know what are my options ahead. And, for the current ones that are in high school or even in middle school that are trying to figure out, all right, what is this math thing that I'm dealing with? Why do I have to do this? Right? Doesn't this help become a tool for these parents? They can say, look, let me show you some people that use math in their jobs. And let me watch this interview real quick. Let's see how these career role models are leveraging the kind of things that we're talking about now in middle school. So, it gives a why for these parents, and trying to explain what is going on, right? Why are we doing this? Why are we focused on this now? Why is it so important now? And this gives them kind of a path, even parents, it's a tool for them to be able to say, yeah, this is what we're doing. We're trying to get you to, so you can do this. You're interested in this. You want to be an architect, or you want to maybe be a comic, or like write a comic book, like a comic strip. My son, who's 10, I can imagine him being a comic strip writer, right? I can see him doing that for a living, because he just ingests this, so he just takes it all in. But things like that, you want to give him the why, and we're hoping that we can, in part and parcel, help do that for these parents. But back to the question at hand, really, what do we see in terms of what we're going to do? As I mentioned earlier, I would just only add that really what I love to see is for us to be a very comprehensive solution for these parents and for the students, right? To help the students make that decision, give them an information that they need in order to say, what, I like this. I want to go after this a little bit further. So building out our mentorship arrangements, continuing to roll out our free webinars, which we'll continue to do so that kids have an insight in a variety of different aspects. I think our first one was to the Cardinal Newman Society, and that was wonderful because we had not only Cardinal Newman Society representative Kelly Solomon with us, but also representatives from 5 different Catholic colleges, Newman-approved colleges, that were in attendance, and they were there to answer questions about various aspects about their respective institutions. So we're going to build that out as well, and really emphasize the trades. There's so much appetite for that right now, and there's so much possibilities. And kids, if you have any desire to get if you have a hands-on approach to things, the trades are a wonderful way, not only to do things creatively and to be a problem solver, but if your vocation, your other vocation is to be a mom or a dad, you can do that successfully and still support the family. So through the trades, there are a lot of wonderful things, a lot of wonderful people that I know that are in the trades that exemplify that. So,
oh, yeah, and some of the richest people on Long Island are in the trades here.
yeah,
You have to fight over the good ones. You know, they're hard. They can be hard to get.
Yeah, I mean, they're in such high demand, right? They're in such high demand. It's a space. I remember attending it was an in-person homeschool conference where they had a panel interview, and there was like 4 people on it: electrician, representing all the different trades, electricians, carpentry, plumbing, welding, things of that sort. And I think carpentry, the starting as an apprentice, first year apprentice was $19 an hour. This is like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, come to think of it. And every 6 months, they were going to give you $1.50 increase. So as you continue to meet each threshold in the apprenticeship program, and then ultimately landing at around $28 an hour, somewhere in there, just to be a carpenter for, so that, not, I say just being a carpenter, it's a very highly skilled space, but it gives you an idea that you can really come out with if your intention is to not, college is not your cup of tea, but you still want a job that's going to be able to provide you with the ability to support your family and yourself. Golly, the trades are there. I mean, they are there. It's an amazing, and it's a wonderful opportunity. And by the way, we want to infiltrate Catholics into the trades, right? Yes. Catholics that love being in the trades. So that's another aspect of this, right? We haven't really underscored enough. The faith component of all this underscores everything we're doing. So the kids are really, as I mentioned and alluded to earlier, it's retaining their faith throughout this journey, right? Because so many kids lose their path, they lose their way with God, they lose their faith as they take both eyes off the ball, meaning their faith, and they focus strictly speaking on their path, their career, their vocation, whatever, whether that be in college or what. Kids can lose their way. And so what we want to do is give them a chance to see how they can do both. Keep one eye on the vocation, and if you have a pair of glasses, 3 eyes on your faith, right? So, we really want to make sure that that's indicative of everything that we do. We're not abandoning it, we're only augmenting it, right?
So good. So good. With all of this engagement, and you've had such a terrific response already, and really this is a very new company, what kinds of feedback are you getting from kids, from parents? Tammy, you want to tee us up on that one?
Yeah, well, Walter already spoke of the amazing registrations, over 400 registered for that webinar. So there's definitely the feedback of there's an interest here in what we're offering. And as a mentor, as professional mentor associates, we get the questions all the time, like from the student themselves, like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. What do I do? And before it was, Homeschool Connections has a class, which is a wonderful class. And that's a great place. But now Good Counsel Careers has this path with all these other tools. And so that part is exciting to be able to say, hey, this is out there. And there's questions. I get questions all the time. And then what's also the feedback we're getting is those questions right on Good Counsel Careers, of them asking different questions, like the one about, is trades a viable option? Or, what is an art therapist? Has anyone heard of that? And that kind of thing. And that part of feedback of them engaging and building that community is exciting as well. Nice. And everyone, I'm going to just add, because I just thought of it, so far, everyone I've talked to about this, whether I'm interviewing them for Good Counsel Careers or I mention, I'm also working with Good Counsel Careers, and I tell them a little bit, they're like, oh my, that is so exciting, that we need that so much, or if they have grown kids who've already, been through, I wish I had that when, my kids were going through that. I personally wish I would have had that when my kids were going through it. They had me, but that's what's exciting is of that feedback of like, oh yeah. And that's exciting for us that, okay, we are in the right direction. We're really helping people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you made the point, they had me, but there's a certain point in the teen years, I'm sure all parents listening are going to start nodding their heads, where they need other voices. They just really do need to hear truth from other adults, other happy, engaged adults, passionate about their faith and enjoying their lives. Walter, what are you hearing back? What kinds of feedback are you picking up on?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of aligned with what Tammy was saying. And when I talked about the idea with other parents, and that's usually how the conversation where it unfolds, whether that be bumping them at the shopping mall or the store, or in social settings, whatever the case may be, the parents' reaction is inevitably, "Wow, that's such a great idea." It's just something we've never even had access to in the past. So, it's encouraging for us to keep going, right? To stay the course, but it's also revelatory in that we know we're on to something. We know we're on to something that is so needed in this space, and that there doesn't seem to be a lot of resources for Catholic homeschoolers to turn to for this sort of thing. So we feel like we're definitely in the right direction. And we just want to keep getting the word out, keep getting the message out, so that's the general term. That's generally what I've heard, that these parents just really want to hear more about what we're doing, and they're excited about what we're up to when we do tell them.
Wow. So appreciate you for stepping into the gap. Not many people have the courage to do that, to start with nothing, except for a need, and then just build out from there. Walter, what can parents listening do, or grandparents, to find out more?
Yeah. So I would encourage them to go to goodcounselcareers.com. That's goodcounselcareers.com. Check us out there. We have some free resources already at your fingertips. You just sign in, they're there. You can get a really good experience of what the entire subscription experience is like. So we want to give that to you. I would encourage you, go to the Catholic Homeschool Conference. It's in June. We're going to have a booth there. That's really exciting. And there's going to be a lot of information about that. I would also, if anyone is listening to this and has an audience that they would like to introduce this to, we'll be rolling out an affiliate arrangement too, where vendors can actually, or anyone with an audience who would like to promote what Good Counsel Careers is up to, there is an affiliate arrangement, and they could actually get, some of the proceeds for their efforts to promote Good Counsel Careers on a monthly basis. So those are some of the things I would just, reach out to us. And if you want to give us just an email, you can reach us at team@goodcounselcareers.com. Just send us an email, team@goodcounselcareers.com, and we'll be happy to respond to your questions.
Fantastic. Anything to add to that, Tammy?
I like the fact that you said parents or grandparents, or even parents, if besides going to goodcounselcareers.com, if you're thinking, okay, I want to do this and I've got all these other irons in the fire with my kids or whatever, and budget, what a gift an aunt or an uncle or a godparent could give the kid, the student, like, here's a subscription to help you move your world forward. And so, kind of think out of the box of how can I provide this, wonderful thing for students so that they can go down this path and really, prayerfully look at what their world is. So yeah, look into it and talk about it with others, and build that.
All right. Confirmation gift, birthday gift. Yeah. Easter basket.
That's great.
It's a gift that just kind of gives into the future. It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. Any final thoughts from either of you? What would you like our audience to be thinking about? Sorry, Tammy.
No, you're fine. My final thought is that we all need a prayerful path forward. And that's one of the reasons I'm very excited about Good Counsel Careers, is that it provides this for those students that are facing that question, what's next, that it gives them that prayerful path forward with resources to be able to do it well. And that's what I'd like people to think.
Yeah. Amen. Walter, what would you like to leave us with?
I don't know how to end it better than that. I think Tammy just right on the mark. Yeah, I would say prayerful path forward. Our motto is find your path, grow your faith. And that is everything we've talked about. It's indicative of everything we want to try to achieve. And we want to help students do just that, find their path, grow their faith.
All right, everybody. We'll have all the necessary links in the show notes so that you can introduce this really thrilling new program for Teen Career Discernment, Good Counsel Careers, to your family, to your friends, to your homeschool networks. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. Walter and Tammy, thank you so much for all your hard work, your vision. Really appreciate you both.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. We'll see you next time. We are praying for you. Please pray for us too. God bless you. And that's our show for today. Our program is sponsored by homeschoolconnections.com. Be sure to subscribe to Homeschooling Saints and leave us an honest review. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.